Most of you do not have trouble with looking at a graph, counting the slope, finding the y-intercept, and putting an equation in y equals mx plus b form. Most of you can do that, right? The kind of lines that I'm seeing people having difficulty with are horizontal lines and vertical lines. What is the slope of a horizontal line? Do you know the slope of a horizontal line? The slope is 0. So when you put it into y equals mx plus b form, the mx part zeroes out. A horizontal line just has an equation, y equals a number. This is the number. Where does it cross the y-axis? That's the equation for a horizontal line. If you have a vertical line, what's the slope? Undefined. By the way, so is the y-intercept, because does this cross the y-axis? What axis does it cross? And so this is going to be x equals 4. The equation for a vertical line is x equals a number, and you get that number from the x-intercept. Would you sit right here today? Okay, another kind of problem that people are having difficulty with is parallel and perpendicular to the x and y axis. So on your paper, so if we have something that's parallel to the y-axis, which way is it going to go? What does parallel to the y-axis look like? Would this be parallel to the y-axis? If it's going straight up and down vertically, the slope is undefined. The equation is x equals a number. Which one of those numbers are an x number? Because it will be crossing the x-axis at the point 4. When it crosses the x-axis and it's straight up and down, the equation is x equals a number. Next example, make your x and y axis. Here's the important part of this problem. Perpendicular to the y-axis and through this point, 10 and 20 would be in the first quadrant. Now, what does it mean if it's perpendicular to the y-axis? It means it's going to cross the y-axis at a 90-degree angle. That's the symbol for a 90-degree angle. What axis did it cross? It crossed the y-axis, so the equation is going to be y equals a number. Which one of those is the y number? And that would be 20 would be where the y-intercept is. If it's crossing the y-axis and it's straight, it's going to be y equals a number. Again, on your notes, make your x and y axis. What's parallel to the x-axis going to look like? Would this line be parallel to the x-axis? And if it's parallel to the x-axis, what did it cross? And so its equation will be y equals, because you get the equation from what it crosses. which one of those is a y number? Again, make your x and y axis, and we are interested in perpendicular to the x-axis. This is the x-axis. Perpendicular to the x-axis means it's going to cross the x-axis at a 90-degree angle. What axis did it cross? It crossed the x-axis, so its equation is going to be x equals a number. X equals this number because that number is an x number. The kind of lines that people have the most difficulty with are the horizontal and vertical, and they're really the easiest. But you have to memorize. You get the equation from what it crosses. If it crosses the x-axis and it's straight up and down, it will be x equals a number. If it crosses the y-axis and it's a straight horizontal line, it will be y equals a number. Another thing that will be covered on the test is parallel and perpendicular slopes. Is this line right here going to be straight horizontal or straight vertical? No, because it's got a slope and a y-intercept. What is the slope of this line? That's the slope for that line. What is the slope of every single line that's parallel to that line? Parallel lines have the same slope. All of the lines that are parallel to this one have this slope. However, perpendicular lines means it's going to cross at a 90-degree angle. If it's going to cross at a 90-degree angle, I've got to have one positive slope and one negative slope. So if that's a negative slope, the perpendicular slope is going to be positive. If that's 3/5, what's perpendicular going to be? Perpendicular slopes have opposite signs and the fractions are reciprocals. Reciprocals mean the fractions have been turned upside down. Parallel and perpendicular. Well, first of all, what's the slope of this one? So what's the slope of every other line that is parallel to this one? If this is a positive 2, what kind of slope is perpendicular to positive 2? But I have to flip the fraction upside down. So this slope is 2/1. And so 2/1, when you flip it upside down, is 1/2. I have to have one positive and one negative for perpendicular, and the fraction has to be flipped upside down. Now, there was another kind of problem that gave my first period class some issues. If I have a line and it's shaded underneath the line, suppose the equation for that line is y equals 1/3 x plus 4. That's the line. How do you show the shading? How do you show that it's shaded underneath the line? You have to have a less than or a greater than sign. This is underneath, and so this would be a less than sign for shaded underneath. If you shaded above the line, shaded above the line would be greater than sign. Now, this line that I drew here is dotted. If it's not dotted, if it's a solid line, that would be greater than or equal to for the shaded above.